Hi everyone, and welcome to the Health Mastery Podcast. My guest today is Andrew LaTour, and he is the founder of GembaRed, a red light therapy device. Andrew, can you introduce yourself in a little bit more details?
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me on. So I'm Andrew LaTour. I'm from Connecticut in the United States. I founded GembaRed LLC, which we produce red and near infrared LED light therapy devices. We launched that in January of this year, 2018. And going back, I'm a biohacker. I've been biohacking for the past 3 years. I've lost over 65 pounds in weight. I've increased my
65 pounds.
yeah. Ever
Wow.
since I started biohacking, before that, my health was in pretty rough shape. I had chronic sinus issues my whole life, chronic antibiotic use, chronic respiratory issues, just a ton of issues, and it was all piling up. So by the time I was 25, I was obese. I was pretty sure I was pre-diabetic. Just felt terrible. And I was like, this can't be like 25, right? I can't be on a downward slope from here. So then I started really looking at what can I do to take control of my health, and how do I improve myself. So I got really deep into diet and health and wellness and biohacking and all the different tools and techniques out there. So it's been quite a journey, and the deeper I got, the more research I got into it. I always wanted to be a part of this health kind of sphere. So actually, my background is in chemical engineering. I went to school at the University of Connecticut. I have a bachelor's in chemical engineering with minors in material science and mathematics. And I worked in industry for over 7 years. I worked in the hydrogen fuel cell industry for a couple of years, alternative energy, using clean energy sources. I moved into some chemical production industries. Didn't stay in those too long. And then my most recent job was 3D printing. We did, it was a small company in Connecticut that does 3D printed parts for aerospace and for medical devices. So it's not just your toy tabletop 3D printers. These were like $1 million 3D printers.
So basically, you can 3D print the rocket parts?
Yeah, we don't do the hot parts of the engine. We don't do any of the hot parts, but more and more components are switching over to these 3D printed parts because the plastic that we're using is called polyether-ketone-ketone, PEKK. And
What? Again, what?
it's PEKK is the abbreviation. It's polyether-ketone-ketone.
Okay, we will put a link to Wikipedia for this.
Yeah, but if you look up, this molecule is tremendous because it's super high temperature, super high chemical resistant. It's just the strongest plastic I've ever worked with, and that's why we can use it to replace like aluminum. It's lighter than aluminum on aircraft, and because you can 3D print it, it's cheaper and faster to produce, especially for more complex designs. You can 3D print it without all the extra labor of subtractive manufacturing. So anyway, from there, actually, it took an interesting turn last year. At the start of the year, my wife actually got a new job where she takes job assignments all over the world supporting different airlines. And so I actually left my engineering jobs to travel with her. So last year we spent some time, a couple months in southern France, in Toulouse. We spent a couple months in China. We spent some months in Mexico. So we've been traveling all over, and that's let me spend some more time investigating biohacking, investigating my health. And I started developing this business on the side. And eventually it came to where I am today. So it was quite an opportunity.
Do a lot of people express interest in GembaRed and red light therapy?
Yeah, I think when I was looking at red light therapy, it's getting more and more traction over the past 5 or 10 years. There's more and more studies, like clinical studies. You can see them popping up on PubMed, see them, in the news with red light therapy, and now there's kind of this great timing in terms of the science is there, the interest is there, the public's becoming aware, and this technology, the LEDs that we can use for specific wavelengths of red and near infrared, that's becoming more affordable. So you can have affordable red and near infrared lights that are safe because LED technology is very safe. And you can afford it, and you can have it in your own home. So when I was looking at the market and seeing all these different products on the market, and I was like, wow, I can do a product. I couldn't find one with the specifications that I wanted at the price point I wanted. So that really drove me to say, okay, I can fill in a gap that I see in the marketplace in terms of cost and effectiveness and design. So that's really where I went after was my price point, the size factor, the effectiveness, and it's gotten very, very positive reception, very good reviews. Specifically from biohacking markets, mitochondriacs, people who are looking to just elevate their health and their wellness. And they, a lot of people are understanding the science that the implications of red and near infrared light are so tremendous in terms of anti-aging and supporting our mitochondrial health. So that's really, where that kind of buzzword you probably see a lot is the mitochondria. How do we take care of it? How do we nourish it? And then that leads straight into red light therapy.
It's really popular recently, the mitochondria health. And from my understanding, you are not 65 pounds down just from red light, or you're just from
no. A lot of it was diet. I followed the bulletproof diet protocol for a long time, so I did the butter coffee with the MCT in the morning, fasting. A lot of
this bulletproof diet with the coffee, or it's more complicated?
You start with the bulletproof coffee typically in the morning, and that's what they call the bulletproof intermittent fasting, right? So you drink the coffee, you blend in the butter and the MCT oil, and that keeps you satisfied, and because there's no sugar, it doesn't spike your insulin. So it's a good way to start your day for a lot of people. And then there's a diet that goes along with it. It's very low carb. Following more of a cyclical ketogenic diet. So you follow a low carb diet, high quality.
Basically intermediate fasting. This is the name of the diet you used to drop 65 pounds, right?
Yeah. Intermittent fasting, low carb ketogenic diet. But I started doing a lot in terms of my physical health and mental health and understanding different, how different supplements affect me. And, that led me into looking at improving my sleep quality, and like a lot of people do, and like you probably see with Iris, is people are looking to improve their sleep quality because it affects so much downstream. And so, especially me, I'm kind of a nerd, kind of a gamer. I started wearing blue blocking glasses while gaming, different brands, and I was like, wow, this feels a lot better. And I wear certain blue blockers at night, helps me with my, sleep cycle. And that kind of turned me on to, okay, if I can block blue and get a tremendous effect, what else can I do with light therapy? So I started, doing more, going outside with the sun, especially in the mornings, to help wake me up and set my circadian rhythm. And during the winter time, I bought all these bright lights like halogen work lamps and the heat lamps and things like that to brighten up my mornings and help wake me up before going to work. So I really started playing with all these different technologies of light hacking, because I just felt like the diet was great, just to lose weight, but there's a lot of stresses to deal with while you're losing weight, and a lot of it is how do you recover? How do you sleep? How do you, make sure you're not increasing your stress levels, that it's counterproductive to lose weight. So it's definitely a multifaceted approach. It's not just tackling it with diet. It's also taking care of your body and your energy levels.
So to summarize this, basically you can use intermediate fasting, and basically, is this something like the warrior diet? I have heard about this.
There are a lot of different protocols for intermittent fasting. So I've heard the warrior diet. There's different protocols, like sometimes they call them 16-8, which it would be like 16 hours of fasting and 8 hours is your window of eating, and you can kind of choose your window of eating.
And the goal is to use fat instead of carbs, right? This is the
right.
goal.
Yeah, it helps drive. Yeah, go ahead.
So you use this diet to use fat instead of carbs, and also to keep your body healthy, you started to use light. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. That's a great summary. Yeah. So.
And what is the red light therapy basically?
Yeah. So red light therapy, specifically for what I'm targeting with GembaRed and with my product, red light therapy is the focus of using red and a lot of times near infrared wavelengths to improve your health, improve your mitochondria. And basically the reds and near infrareds that we look at are the non-thermal reds. So basically there's a range between 600 nanometers to 1,000 nanometers. Those are the wavelengths of red and near infrared. So once you go past 700 nanometers, you go into the invisible, so you don't see it anymore. And you know this from your software. You're trying to block specific wavelengths in the blue spectrum, and now we're talking about the red spectrum, which is further the longer wavelengths. So these are non-thermal, meaning that the wavelengths specifically target your mitochondria. They target cytochrome C oxidase, which is the terminal enzyme for your respiration cycle. So that's a
means for non-technical people.
Yeah. So that's a complicated way of saying it helps improve your ATP production, helps improve your energy levels, improves basically your cellular function, your cell reproduction. Not to mention, and we will probably mention, is that this light and these actions by your cytochrome are basically they create a ton of different signals. They encourage nitric oxide release. They stimulate reactive oxygen species, which at the right levels are signaling. So it has a lot of downstream effects. And so what happens is, because we have mitochondria in all of our tissue, in our skin, in our brain, the implications of where we can apply red and near infrared light are all over the body. And as you know, a lot of times we relate the diseases of our modern era to mitochondrial dysfunction, right? So if our mitochondria is not functioning, we get these age-related diseases. And one of the great ways that red and near infrared come in is that they're supporting the mitochondria. They're creating energy production. They're helping you heal. So it's really tremendous. It's just really tremendous. So they, some of the discoveries of lasers and light therapy started back in the 1960s when they discovered near infrared lasers and later red lasers.
What they used the near infrared lasers for?
Well, they originally, some of the studies were looking at some rats to prove that near infrared wasn't carcinogenic for rats, and they proved it was perfectly safe. And then they found that the hair growth on the rats that they experimented on actually improved. Yeah, it improved. They improved their hair growth, and so this kind of started this idea of wow, there's some biological effects going on. So there's some health effects. So that led into this whole field of low-level laser therapy, LLLT, So if you do searches on PubMed or just the internet for LLLT, that's a common way of calling red light therapy, is also overlapped with LLLT. And
LLT.
yes, 3 L's T. And so NASA started looking at this for in the 90s. They started looking at this for astronauts coming back. How do they repair the bodies of the astronauts that have been out in space? And a lot of it's for enhanced healing and regeneration. They started using red and near infrared LEDs for wound healing and for improving the recovery from space. So and red light therapy has also been used for a very long time, especially like laser therapy for stimulating collagen growth in the face, for wrinkle reduction, for cosmetic industry. So the cosmetic industry, I believe, has been using red lasers and red light therapy for quite a long time, and that's actually one of the biggest markets, I would say. One of the biggest drivers is this cosmetic industry for red and near infrared light.
They actually use both red and blue light. Blue light for removing acne, if I am correct, and red light for stimulating growth or something like this.
Yeah. So a lot of the ones for the cosmetic industry, like the masks and specific things, they'll use the blue light, which can help kill the bacteria that can cause acne. So they have some blue light and then some red lights, and that stimulates the collagen production and inflammation reduction. So that combination is used quite a bit for the cosmetic industry.
So to summarize what we just talked about, basically, red light, we have mitochondria, and red light is like food for the mitochondria. There is some kind of enzyme which activates or does something like this, and our mitochondria works well, produces more ATF, and this ATP, and this makes our body more healthy.
Yeah, for sure.
And this basically the mitochondria stimulates growth of the tissue, or what? I'm not sure I understand this.
Yeah, so one of the great implications is the growth of new cells, of cell proliferation. So depending on what cells you're targeting, it could be tissues, it could be skin, it could be, and that's why for wound healing, that some of the implications that wound healing increases by 5 times. So it stimulates anywhere, you might have cuts or scrapes or bruises. If you use red and near infrared light, it should speed up that recovery process. So that's one of the greatest, in my mind, one of the greatest kind of instant gratification biohacks you can see with red and near infrared light. Is like, people want to see results immediately, and you start to see that, and you're like, wow, this is really something. But
all comes from the mitochondria, or there are some other cells which do this regeneration process?
I think it's a combination of the mitochondria being stimulated and creating more energy for the cells, and then some of the downstream signaling for growth and repair and inflammation reduction. So that's another whole area of red light therapy, is the inflammation reduction, that it can reduce the reactive oxygen species in inflamed cells.
And how this happens in a biology or chemical process?
That's again, it's happening in the mitochondria with the signaling pathways that are activated through the cytochrome, which absorbs the cells. So that's the amazing thing. It's kind of like there's one kind of centralized mechanism, but depending on where you target it in the body or what kind of issues you're trying to deal with, that's where the effect, that's where the different effects come from. So so for inflammation, for pain management, for things like that, that's a whole nother area that red and near infrared is looking into.
And all this thing is basically a new science. Before we know only about carbs and protein and fat, and now we know more about mitochondria. From how much years, the biohacking community talks a lot about mitochondria?
That's a good question. I think we've known about mitochondria for a very long time, and if you even look back to Otto Warburg, who first, I think he got a Nobel Prize for discovering that the mitochondria controls the cellular respiration and energy production.
What was the
be
name
wrong.
again?
Otto Warburg. I
Okay,
should fact check.
we'll add it in the comments probably.
Yeah, but one of the things is he was looking at this. He discovered this the mitochondria, and then he started looking into the role of mitochondria in cancer, and finding that cancer cells, a lot of cancer cells have deficient, defective, or less mitochondria overall, and the way that the mitochondria function in cancer is very different. That the cell respiration happens in a very different way, and that's why it consumes so much more glucose. And so he was looking at this, and very early on, I forget the years, but way before these times when we're talking about it, the problem is that his research kind of got put to the side to say, oh, you know what? It's really our a lot of people started saying, oh, we can measure our DNA. There's also deficiencies in our DNA with cancer, and we just started, DNA analysis became a really hot topic, and so we kind of forgot about the mitochondria for a long time and started focusing on DNA. Oh, all these age-related diseases are, I inherited it from my dad, so I'm going to get the same diseases as my dad and my grandparents, and it's all in our DNA, and we're just a ticking time bomb to age and die because it's all coded into our DNA, right? So that's been the model, because we went so far into the DNA, and now we're kind of coming back and saying, no, let's look at our mitochondrial health. Let's our DNA is really, a lot of it is based on the signals we get from our environment, which includes diet, which includes light, includes all the factors in toxins and things like that. So our DNA is controlled more by our what we do with our body, and so that's why the focus, especially for the biohackers, is shifting to how do we take care of the mitochondria. So it's not necessarily a new discovery. It's just something that it's like, oh, we should get back to focusing on what we can control, and that's a major player.
Yes. So how do you recommend to do the red light therapy? How much time during the day, or the more the better?
No, not necessarily the more the better, because with red light therapy, there's this concept of a biphasic dose, which again is just a complicated way of saying too much, you don't get a beneficial effect, and too little, you don't get a beneficial effect. So there's kind of like a sweet spot in the middle, right, where you get the peak activity. So typically, I target more of a lower dose, more gentle dose, and just to be clear, the biphasic dose doesn't really tell you anything about safety in terms of red light therapy. There are many studies that show, if you have a very long exposure, very long time frame, there's no safety issues unless you're using like a high-powered laser. But really, that's why with
it's thermogenetic, right? It's not
right.
near infrared.
Yeah.
My question is something interesting. You told that the cancer, what we thought about cancer is that it's in our DNA, and the diseases are actually in our DNA. But what if it's the lifestyle that both we and our parents have that causes most diseases? Is this correct, or I am mistaken?
No, I agree with you. We inherit the environment and the lifestyle from our parents. So that's why there's so many correlations that say, oh, yeah, I'm going to get, I got pre-diabetes. My dad has diabetes. So it just makes sense. but it's also I ate the same diet as him for a long time, lived in the same house, I did similar habits to him, so you pick up on all that. And now, my mentality is more of, well, now I know what's causing a lot of my issues with diet and obesity and diabetes. So I'm going to take control, and I'm going to do things differently, especially, to take control of my health and to, reverse my issues. So I agree with you. I think it's not, it's, we see that correlation that, oh, you're going to inherit your issues from your family, but, and that's a good indicator of what you should look out for. But a lot of it can be, controlled more by your environment and, and what you're doing for your health and your body.
So basically, red light promotes growth. It's like the plants which are exposed to red light and they grow a lot, and then exposed to blue light and they shrink. So blue and red light are the two parts of the spectrum. One promotes growth, the another decreases growth. But should we remove all blue light from our lives?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Obviously, you probably know a lot more about blue light than me, but what I've been following is, to get my blue light naturally from the sun, to get it especially earlier in the morning to stimulate me, wake me up, to get me going. So if the sun's not available, there's different bright light devices or blue light devices to help stimulate you in the morning or reset your circadian rhythm. But typically, especially with blue light, artificial sources, these persistent artificial sources from overhead lights and from computers and phones, that's not beneficial for the body. So we do want to cut that out as much as possible.
It's not beneficial because it's not balanced. There is a huge spike in the blue light. But I was thinking that maybe we only need blue light for the sleep part and for the resetting of circadian rhythms, right? And if we use too much red light, can we just not sleep? This would be pretty productive.
Well, yeah. I think a lot of people use my product for a dual purpose, is that they turn off all their lights at night and they just use my product for a lighting source as well as the light therapy, because my lowest wavelength is 630 nanometers. So as you know, that's not going to turn off your melatonin production at night. So you could use it as a replacement for your lights at night. So if you can swap out your light bulbs at night with more red lights, with things like that, you'd be better. You'd be much better off.
Can you say this again? I'm not sure if I understand it.
Oh, I think the point is if you can, especially remove all the blue lights in your house, the white lights, white LEDs, fluorescent, and replace those light bulbs with red light bulbs, filtered light bulbs, wearing blue blocker glasses, you'd have a much better, nighttime routine where it doesn't harm your melatonin as much.
And you sleep way deeper and better, right?
Right.
Actually, I said something wrong before. I said if we remove blue light, we'll basically stay awake forever, but it's actually the opposite. We'll sleep forever, maybe.
Right. If you have ever, I've worn some of these blue blocker glasses during the day. You don't want to do that, because you'll just turn into a tired zombie. You'll just be like, really.
And this is why I have a really small blue light reduction with iris, which basically makes the color spectrum more even. Reduces the spike only, and there is still light which can reset your circadian rhythm. So this is correct. What I'm doing is correct, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for daytime use, you kind of flatten it out, but then nighttime use, you cut out as much blue as possible, right?
So you recommend using GembaRed at night, right?
Well, yes and no. That's one of the great things. And actually, I was just going to comment, because we're talking about spectrums and balancing the blue. You can cut out that peak of blue from your devices and wearing blue blockers, but you'll notice that you'll never fully give yourself back the red the red lights, the near infrared, and even far infrared, you don't get that from your indoor environment. So you can do the best you can cutting out blue, but you have to figure out where are you going to get near infrared, where are you going to get far infrared, and these are stimulating and healing properties that if you don't go outside in the sun, if you don't use saunas, if you don't use red light therapy, where is that coming from? So you can do a lot for your sleep cycle to block blue, and that's a huge step forward. And then I think the next logical step is to add in red and near infrared and far infrared, kind of, if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense. Basically, you can get the near infrared from the sun, not from the monitor. And if you want near infrared during the day, you go outside to watch the sunset, or you just indoor GembaRed.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
You make some hackerish device which does
exactly.
the same.
Right. Yeah. So, and you asked about using it at night, and a lot of my customers, and I use that at night, particularly on my stomach or chest or my back, just for 20 minutes. And I think there's something, for me, not really a scientific explanation, but like a primal thing is going on, where we used to sit around campfires, and we used to sit around at night at the campfire, and this kind of stimulates you and signals you to say, oh yeah, I'm warming up by the campfire, I'm being signaled to start my rest and recovery cycle, and now I do my red lights, and then I go to bed, and that recovery cycle happens during your sleep. So I think for me that's something primal, but it's kind of a double-edged sword, because some people might use it on their face or around their head, and it's still a bright light. So
your brain will grow too much bigger.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that's a great benefit too, is that there's a lot of studies for improving brain health, improving mood, for reversing brain.
Wear it whole day. It will be super cool.
Yeah, exactly. There's people that put strip lights, LED lights in a bucket, and they wear it on their heads, and that's a normal, becoming more and more normal.
Normal American.
Right. And they might even do it to help with their hair growth too.
Really? You can, if you're bald, you can basically place a near infrared device on your head.
There are devices specifically targeted for that. There are hats, and near and red light lasers that people use. There are products out there for specifically targeting hair regrowth. So
if I place this on my biceps, is this going to get bigger just by the light?
Well, yeah. I mean, you keep joking, but everything literally anything you can ask me, I will tell you red light can help, because with workouts and recovery, it's being studied quite a bit with athletes and recovery. And some of my customers say they use it after workouts and they recover faster, because it's helping deal with that inflammation. It's helped speeding up the recovery process. So it's a tremendous boost. And again, that's going to be another huge market, is that athletes are always looking for that next edge for recovery and exercise.
For the Olympics, to be 1 second better.
Right. So red light therapy is going to play a big part.
No, I was not joking, because I'm basically doing the same thing. So
exactly.
Yes, I know.
So
Yes, I know a lot about the benefits. I'm just giving you ideas. Actually, have you considered that China may copy your invention?
Well, unfortunately, I think that's the nature of all things. So I think what I try to do is just try to stay ahead of the game. I'm constantly trying to develop and look at new designs and new markets, and ways to improve my product. So I think it's just a matter of staying ahead of copycats and things like that.
We can do some partnership. You can make the lights, and I will make the automation to change the light whole day, and basically have a sun in your home on the
so you'll create like an automatic timer environment to have the perfect lighting all the time.
This will be super cool. So now talking about GembaRed, how can people get it? What's the price? How to use it, and things like this?
Yeah, so GembaRed is the product, the website is just GembaRed.com. It's GEMBARED.com.
I'll
GembaRed.
place a link in the description
Yep.
after the video.
Yep. When we'll do a link, and we'll do a 10% off discount. So the full retail is $299. That's the full retail, and so we'll do a 10% off. I'll create a code for you guys, and yeah, really, you order online. I'm shipping to the United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand right now, and looking to constantly expand and grow as things move along.
What is the shipping price for different countries? For example, to Australia and to Europe or something like this?
Australia is depending on where exactly. It's usually around $40, but it could be more or less. For like $40 to $60 around for shipping. So all the prices are calculated when you do the checkout. Yeah, so you can follow GembaRed on Facebook, on Instagram. I try to post fun factoids about red and near infrared light, repost what people are doing with their lights, how they're using it, because that's the thing, like we were just touching on some of the many benefits of red light therapy. So it's going to be very specific to how each individual wants to use it, what their health goals are, how, what their benefits they're looking for. So they're going to use it in all kinds of different ways. So it's really tremendous to see different people using it and how they use it. So yeah, you can find us on social media, and you can reach out to me, Andrew LaTour, if you ever have questions, or email me through the website's email address.
Is GembaRed the only product right now for red light therapy, or there are some other alternatives?
Oh, the red light therapy. There are so many red light therapy products on the market right now. There are tremendous amounts. And there's going to be more and more as time goes on. There's going to be more red light therapy products coming.
You have a bigger range, and it's not thermogenic, right? To say.
Yeah, so my product focuses on 3 wavelengths, which is 630 nanometers, 660 nanometers, and 850 nanometers wavelengths. So the 850 is the near infrared one, which is invisible. And so I pattern those out, broadly across my panel. It's a good size. It's a 1 foot by 1 foot panel, so it covers a very good area. It's lightweight. My product is generally a lot cheaper than lower cost than other products on the market. We provide a relatively low intensity for the market, which is about 7 milliwatts per centimeter squared. And we can go into more of, I'm not sure if we have time to go into some of that, calculating intensity and time and dosage. So for my product, you would use it for about 15 to 20 minutes per session. Typically, I say 1 or 2 times per day.
Can you combine this with a sauna and make a super sauna?
Yeah, it's certainly possible. For my product, it can't handle a lot of, I don't want people to use it in higher heat or high humidity environments, but a lot of saunas will market this full spectrum sauna concept, but that they range in near infrared and far infrared saunas. But a lot of times, if they don't disclose the intensity of the near infrared range, you really don't know what you're getting, from some of those saunas. But at least you're getting some of that benefit. So there's an important distinction, and I think you talked about it with Nathan, was the far infrared saunas. Yes. So the benefits of far infrared, that actually gets picked up more by the water molecules in your cells and in your body. So that's why you get that heating effect. And that actually has a tremendous effect, not only for heating, for sweating, for detoxification, for the heat shock protein activation. So all those things are really good. And then also far infrared helps you generate more EZ water in your cells. I'm not sure. Easy water is
easy water. It looks like a song. It sounds like a song.
Yeah, it's exclusion zone water. So more scientific way of saying structured water. And what
Where is this
happens?
water, in the fat or in the body or in the heart, or where?
It actually gets produced whenever there's light, especially far infrared light, but any light can do it. Far infrared light, when it's in contact, when it's touching water that's in contact with a hydrophilic surface, which is like a water-loving surface, so in your capillaries, in your mitochondrial linings. So it improves the efficiency of your mitochondria because it's creating more easy water in your interstitial mitochondrial layers. So it has a tremendous.
So what type of light generates this? It's beneficial?
It's typically far infrared.
The hot sauna.
Yeah, the heating saunas, the far infrared saunas, and I use a Biomat, which is a far infrared heating mat, which is really great. So you get that benefit. So a lot of people, you want to target things from all angles. So you want far infrared, you want near infrared, all these things for healing and stimulating.
I think
your
you
body.
need to make a GembaRed sauna, basically 20 panels, and you just got bombarded from near infrared light from everywhere, and after you go out from the sauna, you're like an Olympic athlete.
Right. Yeah, because people, you want to combine everything as much as possible and fit all your biohacks in at the same time. So if you can do all this and then listen to your favorite podcast, like Health Mastery Podcast, while you're in the sauna, and then you're good to go, right?
Yes. I have a question. What the 3 different types of red light do to our body? You say you have 3 types of light, but what exactly they do differently?
Yeah, that's a good question. So again, it goes back.
I'm mastering good questions, dude.
Yeah, that's. Now I see why you run this podcast. Now we get it. No, it's so yeah, we choose 3 different wavelengths for a number of reasons. One is, but actually, it all goes back to they all kind of activate the same kind of mechanism in your mitochondria. Of these are wavelengths that have been shown to get picked up by that cytochrome C oxidase, to get picked up by that chromophore. And there's actually different peaks of absorption in terms of what that cytochrome
in human language, please,
are looking for. It's like these are the best wavelengths, is what I'm saying. These are some of the very well studied wavelengths. You can see them in studies all the time, 630, 660
so
especially.
Basically different wavelengths get deeper into our skin, to our organs. This is the idea.
That's what I was getting to, is they all activate kind of the same process, but the longer the wavelength, the larger the number. So 660 and 850 especially, those penetrate deeper into your cells, your skin, your tissue.
So basically, normal red light is for our skin, and near infrared light is for our brain or something like this.
Right. So near infrared, you target deeper tissues, muscle, bone, and brain. So you see more near infrared used for those purposes. And so that's why I combine all 3 into one product. So it's kind of more of a multi-use product. You can use it for many different things, for skin, for muscles, for brain and bone health too. So that's why you see a lot of products, the commercial products will have multiple wavelengths, because just to make it more applicable to reach a wider market, rather than just, if you just do one wavelength, it kind of just fits more one application.
Yes, it's super cool.
Yeah.
What are your other biohacks aside from red light? What other do you recommend for people to use? For example, I have GembaRed. I improve my skin, I improve my body, I improve my energy, my mitochondria. What else to do?
Yeah. I stick with a low carb diet, a ketogenic diet. I think that's a tremendous biohack for me, especially coming from someone who is insulin resistant and having trouble with his weight. So I stick with that diet. Might not work for everybody, but I think it's worth everyone to check out and try and see if it's worth doing. I do the far infrared Biomat, which that's great. That's tremendous.
It's
for,
like
again,
a bed or what?
Yeah, it's like a flat bed, so it's much more portable and easier to use than a big sauna that you have to.
Do you know the founder
construct.
of this? I maybe need to invite it to the podcast.
I'll give you the info for it. We can.
Okay, we will also put it in the links.
Yeah.
For the
No.
bed.
Yeah.
The
No.
sauna bed.
Yeah. It's basically a portable sauna bed. So I think that's often overlooked because a lot of people go for the saunas, and I'm like, this is much more convenient. So I do different supplements. I do vitamin C for my immune health. I do magnesium L-threonate, which is a form of magnesium that helps cross the blood-brain barrier. So I always like that, and I take that before sleep. DHA is tremendous. There's so much that I check out and like to try out. I do for sleep. I do the little acupuncture mats. Do you know what those are? Like the little spike mats. Like Bulletproof brand sells one. It's basically
like a torture device.
Yeah, it's like this torture device, but once you lay on it and relax for a while, you're like, wow, I feel like you feel really relaxed. And I think it's stimulating a lot of endorphins because, those kind of pain receptors, it sends all those endorphins to you. So it eventually gives you like a really relaxed state. So that's a fun biohack to relax on and use for acupuncture points. There's so much. There's some good stuff out there.
And I have a question.
Yeah.
If I get red light into the eye or into my cheeks or other parts of the face, which produces better effect, to the eyes or to the skin?
Well, it depends. Like red light.
It's like I'm asking something like eating light. Is it the absorption better in the eyes or on the skin or everywhere?
I would target more the skin effects, like not necessarily the eyes, even though there are beneficial effects for the eyes for red and near infrared light. There's some good information out there that red and near infrared is beneficial to the eyes. For higher powered like lasers and things like that, you don't want to aim lasers in your eyes. So there's some safety implications for that. But for my product, which is a lower intensity and lower amount, you don't need the eye protection, even though some people, you might want to close your eyes or you might want to use the little goggles. But it's perfectly safe for the eyes, and it actually could be beneficial for the eyes to get the red light exposure. But for your best benefit is really, if you're using red light therapy, is you're going to be targeting something more skin level, superficial. There are products that they have LEDs that you put in your ears. There's products I forget. Human Charger is the brand. Human Charger, they have white lights that you put in your ears, and that can help reset your circadian rhythm. So a lot of people use it for jet lag protocols and for sleep protocols. So that's cool. There's products that you shove LEDs up your nose because sometimes they're targeting the brain, or sometimes they're targeting all the nice little blood vessels and capillaries in your nose, so you can get that directly into your circulation through that point. There's a lot of interesting applications for where people want to stick red lights.
You can put light everywhere, basically. And
you
have some effect on your body.
Right. So there's
To summarize, GembaRed, red and near infrared therapy improves health, improves tissue growth, basically makes you more healthy, more energetic. Blue light in the morning, preferably by the sun, to reset your circadian rhythm. The sauna bed and the sauna for what was
for sweating, detox, for heat shock protein activation, for your easy water.
And the torture bed for endorphins.
Yes, yep. The torture beds.
You can put light everywhere. And what was this thing about priming? Aside from mitochondria, the priming is really popular these days. What is this?
Wait, for priming?
Priming, I mean, this like being more connected to the nature. Is it
Oh, the
not this word?
primal.
I'm not sure if I didn't say something stupid in
No, you're
English.
right. No, you're saying primal,
Primal,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, primal. It's basically, we're looking at how did we evolve? How what did our ancestors eat before all these issues of modern lifestyle, living indoors, eating processed foods, the exposures from cities and factories and things like that. How do we reconnect and extract what we did, as we evolved? We look at what did we do? We lived outside. We had a lot more sun exposure. We were grounded to the earth. Some of us, if we came from northern climates, we were exposed to more cold, which, cold is being investigated a lot for anti-inflammatory and health effects too. And for diet, everything was whole foods. We get it from the earth. It's not processed. It's clean. It's natural. So it's basically just this idea let's look back and see what worked for us for, thousands of years and millennia while we evolved. And, only in the past couple hundred years, couple thousand years is when we created civilization and all these new diseases of age and modern lifestyle came about. So a lot of what we do, for health is like we're reverse engineering what we used to do in the past.
Yes.
So definitely the primal, to look at primal activities and think about what we would have evolved to do in terms of our environments is very important. So if you look at what some of the things in like your app, like you have different settings that can simulate like a candlelight or an ember or things like that, because that's all we had at nighttime while we were evolving. All we had was candlelight. So to look at that, and we didn't have these issues.
Yes. And how to combine blue light blocking software like Iris with GembaRed?
Yeah, I think it's a tremendous way. You can use, you're gonna be blocking blue light, and then also when you want to heal or when you want to add back in those wavelengths that you're missing, that's where GembaRed comes in. So it's adding that restorative part where you're blocking blue, which blue is that light wavelength that's hindering you. You want to add back in red, near infrared, and far infrared. You need to add that back in to complete that whole equation.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Super cool. Super cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to finish with something, this awesome podcast, with some tip for all the listeners?
Sure. I think I would like to close with kind of my approach for biohacking, for health. What I've done is really just taking my health and trying new experiments on my body, trying new supplements, trying new routines, always being open to seeing what's out there and what I can do and what I can extract from information from podcasts and interviews and articles and things. And you can spend all this time researching, but you have to start trying it for yourself, seeing what works and then seeing what doesn't work. So I try not to be afraid of failing. If there's some biohack or health thing that isn't working for me, if I give it a good try and I say, okay, it's time to move on to the next thing. Or if there's something that is really benefiting me that I need to implement, then you have to figure out how to make it sustainable, something that you can do easily every day. So that's really the key, is how do you create sustainable, long-lasting change in kind of a more systematic approach. And that's been my approach for health, for biohacking, for life, for my business. So that's kind of my closing statement, I suppose.
Awesome finish. Now I need from you to stay like 5 seconds still and don't move and don't do everything when I'm closing all the live streams.
Sure, no problem.
Bye bye.
We'll let
Thank you very much. Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Thank you.